Hi, hello, welcome to the UFC Rio Rancho preview show. I'm Alex Savas, a relatively new member of the MMA fighting family. And joining me today, we've got some familiar faces, Mr. Jose Youngs, Mr. Petesy Carroll, and Casey Leydon is here to chime in as well. All right, let's kick things off right off the bat with the main event. Corey Anderson on a bit of a hot streak, taking on Jan Blachowicz, who's looking to avenge his loss to Corey back in 2015. So there's talk about this being the fight to determine who takes on Jon Jones. Petesy, we'll start with you. Does it matter what happens in this main event as far as next up for a title shot?
You know, Alex, like me and Jose have been talking about this fight for a long time, and we thought it was definitely going to be the winner would determine the next challenge to Jon Jones's title. But I mean, I feel like after the Reyes fight, it's really taken the steam out of this because that narrative seems to be gone because a lot of the fan base are calling for the Reyes rematch, and it seems to be completely geared towards that. So I do feel as though had Jones had an emphatic victory last weekend, we would be, you know, it would be a lot more on the line going into this fight. And I feel like that has kind of taken away from it. And to be honest, I feel like it would have to be nearly like what Corey did against Johnny Walker to really have the people get behind him and really push for him to be the next guy to challenge for the title. And of course, the same goes for Jan. It has to be emphatic. But again, not even that's going to do, I don't think. I feel like they really have an uphill battle here to get that next shot at Jones, to be honest.
What do you think, Jose? Winner of this fight gets Jon, or what happens next?
I think Petesy nailed it where he said it really depends on who wins. I think what Corey Anderson has going for him is Jon Jones actually mentioned his name in the UFC 247 fighter panel that we were all at, where he said that Corey Anderson seems to be fighting with a chip on his shoulder, and he wants to be the one to break it off. It kind of quells the talks of him going up to heavyweight. He said if it's not broke, there's no reason to fix it. So it seems like he's going to be sticking around the light heavyweight division for a while. But I think if Corey Anderson does go out there and just steamrolls over Jan like he did to Johnny Walker, I could see him getting the title shot. But if it's another fight like Jan had with Jacare Souza, where it was like a 5-round fight where none of us can really remember anything about that fight, then I can imagine they're going to want to pull the trigger with the Dominic Reyes rematch.
What do you predict for this one? Oh, go ahead, Casey.
For Corey, it honestly doesn't matter what happens in the actual fight. It only matters what he says after the fight, because I think that's just the way this business rolls. So if he knocks out Jan in 2 minutes or whatever, it's just gonna matter what happens, what he says afterwards. And maybe Jon's there. We don't know yet, but Jan definitely. I don't think it's gonna be a giant Mount Everest if he wants a title shot after this fight.
So we keep saying if. So what is your prediction, Casey? We'll start with you. Is Anderson going to keep his streak alive, or is Jan going to take the win?
Anderson's hot right now. I think Corey Anderson's looking great. The problem is against Jan, it's hard to look impressive when you beat him. And I don't think Corey Anderson has that type of fighting style where it's going to be a highlight reel victory. Where like Johnny Walker's a guy who's going to be so aggressive that it's either, kill or be killed of Johnny Walker. So you are going to get a sort of highlight reel. Even when he beat Johnny Walker, it was like, I think, a standing TKO. So it was mostly what Corey Anderson said afterward that really kind of sold us on like, hey, maybe Corey Anderson should fight for it. But I am picking Corey. I think it will be an ugly fight, very similar to the first fight.
Jose, you're nodding your head. You agree?
Yeah, I think Corey takes it. He won the first fight, 3-round decision. I think Jan's only been finished once or by TKO in his career, and that was against Thiago Santos, who finishes everyone. And if people don't remember that fight, Thiago Santos he had gone up to light heavyweight on short notice the fight before and then won. So then he just continued his run at light heavyweight and then just tore through Jan Blachowicz because he had nothing to lose, and he showed it where he just went out like guns blazing. Corey Anderson's never submitted someone in his career, so I don't think that's going to happen. So I do see this is a guy who can basically, Corey finishes you with strikes or fights you to his decision against a guy who's only been finished once against a knockout artist. So I'm going to have to say Corey Anderson by 5-round decision. That's just what the card – looking at the cards and looking at their history, that seems to be the most logical choice.
Petesy, any hope for Jan?
Yeah, I do feel as though he does have a chance. Like the thing about Jan is a lot of people sleep on his striking, right? Like I feel like Corey's not the kind of guy to take anyone lightly. I don't believe that. But I do feel as though he has changed a lot as a fighter since his last fight with Jan, and his striking has improved drastically. I mean, it's improved a lot. Like, he was telling me in Hamburg how he literally walks around the house keeping his form correct, and he has his wife shouting at him going like, no, you got it wrong. So that's how focused he is on his striking at the moment. But I feel as though he's taken such big advancements in his striking, he might go in and say, you know what, I think I'm going to be able to strike with Jan this time. And that's a big mistake. Jan is a decorated kickboxer, a decorated striker before he even moved into MMA and won those titles with KSW. So I think it would have to be Corey getting away from the game plan that won him the first fight with Jan that would lead to him losing. But I do feel as though the guys are right. It's Corey's fight to lose here. And I do feel as though I agree with Casey in the fact that, you know, it's really Corey that we're going to see go on challenge John after this one. I feel like Jan has a far bigger bridge to cross there before he's going to be fighting for titles.
And let's not forget, Jan's also a black belt, BJJ. I think he has more submission wins than knockouts. So I wouldn't be surprised if Jan can tap Corey Anderson, but I don't see that happening.
All right, let's move on down to the co-main. Diego Sanchez and Michel Pereira. Diego's first fight in his home state in more than 5 years, taking on Michel. But a hell of a UFC debut, but now coming off a loss. Diego did say Michel will not be standing up. He will be on the ground in a pool of blood. Jose, we'll start with you. Jesus. Predictions for this one.
Ah, man, Michel Pereira, to call him a wild card would be an understatement. We weren't even sure if he would make weight ahead of this fight. I mean, he's one of the bigger welterweights. He looks like a middleweight that struggles that would struggle to cut down to 185, let alone 170. Uses a ton of energy walking to the octagon. Like, he's dancing, he's flipping, he's doing all this stuff, and I'd be gassed out on that walk. And fighting Diego Sanchez, your cardio has to be on point fighting Diego. I mean, he's one of the I would just remember that fight against Clay Guida where he just put the foot to the pedal to the metal like immediately out of the gate. So if that Diego Sanchez shows up, it's going to be a long night for Michel Pereira. But I have no idea how to predict what Michel Pereira is going to do. I mean, he knocked out Danny Roberts with a flying knee and a punch, but then he goes out there and lays an egg against Tristan Connolly, a man who's should be a lightweight taking the fight on short notice, and he loses a decision. So I have absolutely no idea how to pick this fight. I'll pick Diego Sanchez. He's fighting in his hometown. He seems to be focused, or maybe too focused on trying to batter this man. But again, I say this with no confidence whatsoever.
Casey, what do you think?
I love Jose. I don't know. In the sense, it's just really it seems from the footage we've seen of the very limited footage of Pereira's weigh-in that he had a good weight cut, and I'm gonna go ahead and say he lost his last fight because of a bad weight cut. As you know, I think he said publicly about he had lots of trouble getting his camp in, and he essentially had to cut weight by himself until his corner got in. So And he didn't get demolished in the he won fight. I think it won fight of the night when he fought Conley, but he just got grinded out. I don't think he didn't get destroyed on the ground. He just got he was just tired. So if Michel Pereira shows up how he at his potential, yeah, I think this should be a showcase victory for him. But hey, if Diego wins, that's gonna be cool too. I'm looking forward to the walkout. I'm looking forward to the walkouts. Oh, please, UFC, do not cut away please show the walkouts don't even show the fight. Just show the walkouts Absolutely, over and over. That's all we want. That's all we want, to be honest.
PT, what do you think?
I'll tell you, before I get into the fight, I think Michel Pereira is a perfect example of how quickly MMA fans flip-flop. You know, he comes out and he wins this fight against Danny Roberts. And to be honest, I didn't think he had a chance in blue hell to do that to Danny Roberts before he went in there. Danny Roberts fought professional in boxing. I just thought he'd be far too technical. He obviously got that amazing KO over him, and then he's the darling of MMA. Everyone's like, this guy's the best. Put him in there against Usman. Put him in there against the champ. Oh my God. He goes out there against Tristan. It doesn't happen for him. Like, get rid of him. This guy's terrible. I never want to see this guy again. I mean, it's just a perfect example of how the fans flip-flop on these guys. I think he's great fun. I think he is an attraction. Like, I'm looking forward to seeing this guy fighting. And against the style of Diego Sanchez, I do feel as though the only hope like he has against Diego is keeping the fight standing. And I do think it's going to be hard for Diego to shoot in against him, right? It's like trying to put your hand in a blender and not lose a finger, as far as I'm concerned. The guy's doing cartwheels and somersaults and all this stuff. I feel like Pereira could get the win here. I don't know why I'm feeling that way, and I know it's Diego Sanchez in New Mexico, so that's quite controversial. But I actually really enjoyed the matchup. I think it's going to be wild. But yeah, I think I'm edging towards Pereira. Maybe something crazy like a standing somersault to finish the fight or something. You know,
a standing somersault. All right.
Do you think this fight is the outcome of this fight is very dependent on the game plan of Diego Sanchez?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I feel like if he's going to try and mix it up with this guy and expect to be able to stand in the pocket with this guy who doesn't know what the pocket is, I don't think that's a good idea. He's never seen a pocket in his goddamn life.
Like, I think it also depends on, like, if you look at Diego Sanchez's Instagram and his Twitter, he's doing a lot of like Tai Chi kind of looking stuff inside the water. Or this guy, his head coach, I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's like, this is how you can play, you can have defense without blocking. And he's like, someone's like punching him in the stomach and he's like rolling with it. So like he's basically deflecting punches off his abs. So interesting cat nonetheless. It kind of reminds me of was it Ito Portal's stuff with Connor, where like there was a man like laying on the ground on this man's Instagram and he would like have a pole and then he would like drop it and he's like dodge the pole without knowing where it's falling. And I was like, Diego Sanchez brings this cat into the octagon against Michel Pereira. I have no idea what's going to happen.
Hey, that was weird, actually, right? I remember this guy during the Chiesa fight. That was wild. That was,
yeah, and speaking of like looking at Diego's last few fights, like who's he lost to? Like he's lost to like Chiesa, like Iaquinta, and like Matt Brown, and then he's beaten like Mickey Gall and was it Craig White or Alex White?
Craig White, the Thundercat.
Craig White. So it's like he's beaten two up and coming young guys, and then he's lost to veterans. So like if this continues, like I think Diego Sanchez pulls this one out.
All right. I want to take a quick look down at the prelims now with Nathaniel Wood and John Dodson, something that's kind of flying under the radar right now. PT, I know you spoke with Nathaniel quite a bit this week. What did he have to say about this matchup?
Well, look, he feels as though this is the one that's going to open up the division for him. It's hard to believe, but the last time we saw Nathaniel Wood was 11 months ago. He had an emphatic start to his UFC career, 3 wins in a row. And this is a guy that was known as a knockout artist in Cage Warriors, where he had his initial ascent. He had that championship winning kind of run with them. And he was always known as a knockout artist. Now he has 3 submissions in as many fights in the UFC. It's incredible. I feel as though Dodson being in New Mexico is going to want to come out here and exchange with Nathaniel. And I feel that plays right into the prospect's hands. He is unbelievable boxer. He is incredible puncher. I just feel as though Dodson's so elusive and, it's going to be difficult maybe for him to catch him, but I'm really looking forward to this fight. I just feel as though it's a huge shame that he's not going to be on the London card. Nathaniel Wood, when I think of London, I think of Nathaniel Wood. Like, he was the main ticket seller for Cage Warriors in London for many years. He always brought out a huge crowd. They made some great iconic images, Dolly Clue did, for Cage Warriors of him around London. And I just don't understand why he isn't there. But as I said to Jose on the A side, I understand that Dodson has gone to Prague to fight Peter Yan. He doesn't deserve to keep on having to go across the water to fight these guys. I do love this fight. And Nathaniel thinks he's going to go in, get a finish, introduce himself to the top 10, and then fight in London. Imagine that. That would be incredible. 5 weeks from now in London, that would be crazy. But I would love to see it. And I gotta go with the hot streak at the moment. I'm gonna go with Nathaniel Wood for this one. I think he's an incredible talent, and he feels as though he's on a different level to other prospects in the division, like Sean O'Malley, who recently said he was interested in a fight with him, and Jack Shore, who came through the same system with Cage Warriors, won the same title, the bantamweight title. Nathaniel feels as though he shouldn't even be in the same conversation as these guys. So I think it's going to be a huge statement from him if he does get his hand right here, because Dodson, as we know, a former title contender, he's been in there with the best in the world. It will be a huge feather in his cap if he got a finish over John Dodson here.
Anything to add, Jose?
Everything Petesy said, I believe he's been speaking with Nathaniel Wood more than anyone else on the site. I'm just gonna have to pick against Petesy because it's boring if everyone just picks the same over and over and over. I can't trust everything Petesy said. He's a known liar. But if you look at like John Dodson's resume, like he's lost to like Peter Yan, Jimmy Rivera, Demetrius Johnson twice, Marlon Moraes, John Lineker, like. These aren't just like top 10 fighters. These are like top 3 bantamweights in the world, top 3 flyweights in the world. So he's pretty much only lost to former contenders or champions. And then he's beaten like Eddie Wineland, Pedro Munoz, Manny Gambier, Zach McCoskey. So it's like he can beat everyone ranked like 15-5. And then he loses to everyone 5 to champion. So I think if Nathaniel Wood does get past John Dodson, I think it's a lot bigger of a deal than people are like this. We all know this is going to be a big win for him, but I think it's a bigger deal than people think just based on who John Dodson has beaten, or has lost to. So if Nathaniel Wood adds his name next to Demetrius Johnson, Marlon Moraes, Peter Yan, Jimmy Rivera, like that's huge for this European prospect. But just because I want to pick against Petesy, I'm going to pick John Dodson.
This is against European people. This is all he is. This is the only reason why he's making that big.
As the most European man on this panel, you have to trust me.
Yeah,
this is
actually. I agree with both of you guys said a lot. I love this matchup. I love prospect versus vet. Like those are my favorite matchups, and I think this is the perfect timing for a match like this. The location's odd, so I feel like. As a promoter, the UFC, I feel like you will want to, push the Wood, but the location's odd. But yeah, you're right. Dude, Dodson's only lost to the top of the top, and even that Lineker fight, I honestly thought Dodson won that fight, but regardless.
He knocked out TJ Dillashaw.
Yeah,
too. People forget that.
I've always wanted that rematch, so we'll see what happens. I've always wanted to see that rematch. But to be honest, like I don't really know. Like PT, you're the expert on Nathaniel Wood, so I don't really know how good a fighter he is, other than the hype that comes with him. But if Wood can win this fight, heck yeah, we have a legit new contender in the bantamweights.
I'd love to see, right, and I know this is fancy matchmaking for absolutely no reason ahead of the guy just fighting tomorrow, but I would love to see Nathaniel Wood and Cody Garbrandt. Holy shit, that would be amazing.
My good. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
That sounds cool.
Cool.
All right. Let's talk about Ray Bourque for a second. Misses weight for a 4th time for this fight. What do we do with Ray at this point? Because obviously we can't go on like this.
All you have to do is next fight, he just fights at bantamweight. Like he's not forcing the UFC to make him fight at flyweight. The UFC just goes, you're a bantamweight fighter, fight at bantamweight. It's kind of, I don't understand what the issue is. Like, I don't understand you miss weight this many times. And of course, Ray Bourque has so many, obviously his personal life and his family. That's a really horrible situation. It seems to be getting better. But as far as his weight class, he's not a flyweight. That's kind of, I don't know where we're at. I mean, that's it.
And we were talking about this with Roxanne Modafferi. Like, it really affects people when you're not coming in on weight. It makes it an incredibly difficult task. An already difficult task becomes a monumental task when you don't weigh the same as the person on weigh-in day. Like, I mean, we only talked about it the other day. We saw Roxanne celebrating, you know what I mean, when her opponent made weight for the last fight. It was incredible, but that's how much it means. Like, I mean, it's shifting the goalposts enormously when someone comes in at a different weight, especially at flyweight. I mean, flyweight's the lowest you can go, right? These people are really battling to make the scales in the vast majority of situations. So I just feel like it becomes when, as you said, it's 4 times. I mean, it's becoming a huge issue. And I agree with Casey. It's got to be bantamweight next time. It's not good enough.
All right, let's talk about what do you guys expect to be fight of the night or any standout performances for this Rio Rancho card? Jose.
I'm going. Sorry.
Petesy.
Petesy, you go.
I think we'd all looking at Yancy and Lando there and feeling that is going to be a really violent dance for 15 minutes or as long as it lasts. I mean, it kind of jumps out when you're looking at the card. I feel like it's got to be that one or it's got to be Dodson and Wood for me. I feel like those two fights are definitely going to deliver. I hope I don't jinx them. I really hope I don't, because people are going to fire up my notifications on Twitter. But I really feel like those two are guaranteed to deliver on the night. I'm going to go with Yancy and Lando to get fight of the night, I think.
That was going to be my pick, but I'll say anytime Jim Miller steps into the octagon, I have to pay attention. I mean, we were looking at this card before we started recording this, and we were like, oh, Jim Miller's on this card, like kind of sneaking in there against Scott Holtzman, who's again like he's also like I don't want to say he's like an exciting, dynamic fighter like Michel Pereira, but that dude can scrap. I mean, like Jim Miller has been in fight of the years. He's like in the top one, if not three. For like a bunch of records at lightweight and UFC, like most finishes, most total fights, like performance of the nights, like all this stuff. So anytime Jim Miller gets to step into the octagon, do his thing, I'm always going to watch. He's one of those guys that seems to want to fight whoever, whenever. I like how him and Cowboy, like he'll fight and then all of a sudden he'll have the most wins. And then between his fights, Cowboy fights twice and then all of a sudden he has the most wins. So I kind of like this race back and forth with Donald Cerrone and Jim Miller. I spoke with him in Milwaukee before his Charles Oliveira fight, and Jim Miller's like, yeah, like I'm going to fight now and I'll be the first one to 30 fights total. And then in 2 months, Cowboy will have 3 fights. So he even pays attention to it. So yeah, Jim Miller, I'm always excited to see him fight.
To me, the outside of the top 2 fights, Lando versus Yancy, I think that is a guaranteed fight of the night or performance, depending on if it's one person just dominates the other person. But yeah, that fight not being awesome is impossible. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it's impossible. It might go to the cards, but it's gonna be an awesome 15 minutes. Otherwise, someone's gonna get brutally hurt in that fight.
Yeah.
All right, last call for anything you guys want to draw attention to. Shameless promotions, fun facts, unusual objects around you, Petesy.
I mean, Macy Jason's returning, so that'll be fun. She won tough before dropping down to bantamweight. And Casey Kenny, Arizona's own, riding that 2-fight win streak, including a win over Ray Bourque. So I had to give a shout out to the Arizona native on the undercard.
I was just going to say that the way Jose was talking about Jim Miller, it sounds like he's going to get matched with Conor McGregor in the near future.
Honestly.
What records does he have? Sign him up.
I'm just still disturbed that the fact that Holly Holm wasn't on this card and she was on like 2 cards ago for like no real good reason. And this card just it's a weird card, especially the main event, because this main event should have been most likely the co-main or at least on the pay-per-view of last week's card. But here we are. So it's just
I like how this is 5 rounds though. Like if it was the co-main, it'd only be 3, but I'm glad we can get 5 rounds of Corey Anderson and Jan Blachowicz.
Ooh, I'm gonna clip that because that might be if I've ever heard a curse, that was a curse.
I know.
I'm so proud of you. Yeah.
Blame me, guys.
Yeah, you might. You know what? And Habib versus Tony Ferguson is definitely happening too. There's no way
that's never gonna happen. I'm on record numerous times on the A side. That fight will never happen.
Says it's going down in April. That's all I know.
Yeah, it's in the calendar, bro.
Not until they actually throw a punch is that fight gonna happen.
Stop being so negative.
Yeah. I'm turning off your camera.
All right, there you have it. UFC Rio Rancho for MMA fighting. I'm Alex Savas. That's Jose Youngs, Petesy Carroll, Casey Leydon.
H-Town.
Enjoy the fights.
Go Stros.
I got a little turnaround in again.
Yeah.